keeping in the spirit of if it can go wrong, it will. Blue Jeans, the service provider that we were looking to utilize for a broadcast up to 3,000 people, we had about 1,000 people register. Their networks went down about 60 minutes ago. Luckily, we have the best communications team in the entire business, and between our comms team and our technology team, we were able to build a workaround solution, and here we are using a Google Hangout on air versus the Blue Jeans that we wanted to. So we're excited to be here. We hope that you guys are too. It's going to be probably a lighter crowd than we were hoping for, considering the last minute change, but I know that we're all excited to share with you guys what's happening at Team Rubicon and what the year looks like looking forward. So I'll go ahead and dive in. Like I said, we're really excited. 2016 is going to be a huge year for the organization. Looking back, what we saw in 2015 is that this organization is going to continue to scale. I think what many people in both the disaster response space and the veteran space were looking for over the first 5 years of this organization's history was, is this going to sustain, and can this idea scale? And I think what we finally proved in 2015 is that the answer to both those questions is yes. We are building a solution to real problems. That solution is viable and it's scalable. And if we make the right decisions over the coming 2, 3, 4 years, we're going to build an organization that's going to be around for a very, very long time and help a lot of people. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our respective officers and directors who are joining me here today. They're going to give you guys some updates about their respective departments and areas of responsibilities. They're going to talk a little bit about what we accomplished specifically in 2015. They're going to talk about some of the initiatives and objectives that we have for 2016. Now, because of the technology snafu, not all the people that we wanted to join in remotely, like our division administrators and our director of development, are going to be able to log in. Luckily, we'll be able to cover their points for them. And at the end of the hour, I'll kind of pull everything back together and summarize some thoughts about where we're headed for this year, and then open it up to you guys for questions. Bobby from our communications marketing team is going to be shouting out your guys' questions, and we'll field them for as long as we're getting them. So please start queuing up those questions, and we'll get to them here in the second half of the hour. With that, I'm going to turn it over to the FNG, the newest member of our team, Art Dela Cruz, who joined the organization about 2 weeks ago as our new Chief Operating Officer. Art's going to tell you a little bit about himself and some of the role he's going to be playing. Not going to give you a ton of updates, considering he still has no idea what he's doing, but Art, over to you.
Yes, as Jake said, I am lost as can be, but I couldn't be more excited to be here. So to our members and supporters out there, I want to say thanks for giving me the opportunity to be a part of this incredible vision and this incredible team. So it's been absolutely wonderful in the time we're here. I retired out of the Navy after spending 22 years, spent a little time in private industry, and Jake gave me a call, and I just felt like it was an offer I couldn't refuse because of the people that are out there and the people that I'm surrounded by every year. As Jake alluded to, it's an incredible opportunity for all of us, an incredible opportunity in the space. It's an incredible opportunity from respect to the impact that we could have, nationally and around the world. So from that standpoint, the scaling that Jake alluded to is going to be really important. And I think a lot of what I hope to bring here, and I hope to gather help from all of you that might be out there, is how we can put together a strategy and plans that we can execute and have impact wherever we might be. So with that, thank you. It's been an incredible journey already, and I can only imagine the great things that are ahead of us. So I appreciate all of your support. I'll turn it over to Steve Hunt, our Chief Information Officer.
Hello, it's great to meet all of you. I've been with TR for a while, and I'm not having the best of days, but thankfully Jake hasn't canned me yet. So I'm a scientist and engineer for a long time, paratrooper, and lost my way doing some humanitarian work, and ran into Jake and Will, and haven't been able to turn away from TR ever since. It's been a great experience, and I'm very much looking forward to plugging into the strategy that Art was talking about, making this machine run as well as it can and to grow into what it will be. 2015 was a good year for us. A bit of a struggle at times. We learned a lot. And so I call it the year of learning. I put together an architecture, and it basically worked. You get at the details, it failed a lot. We had a lot of successes, a lot of failures. And the important thing is to learn from those and to improve what we're doing. And really what it comes down to, it's not necessarily the technology, it's the people and the technology. So we have to invest in the right people moving forward and really improve our strategies and processes so that it all works together. In the coming year, it's all about communications and infrastructure with our 2 offices here in LA and Texas. I was there this morning. I just walked in from the airport a few minutes ago. That infrastructure enables us to engage all of you more effectively, and that's really the next topic. How do we know we're engaging you well? We have to measure and understand whether or not we're being effective. You know, we'd love to see your smiling faces, but we really want to know what the numbers are. You know, are we doing things that cause you to engage the organization, to progress, and to work with us in the field and at engagement events? But I'd say my highest priority is really looking after the people in my charge. So the business of personnel accountability and everything that we do anywhere on the planet in field operations or engagement events, as well as the ability to communicate when you're deployed anywhere on the planet. Those things are it's about vigilance. It's about ensuring you know that we have your back. And that's who's next.
So then Steve would like to introduce our Director of Field Operations, David Burke,
folks.
over here on the left-hand side.
Yeah.
David, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Jake. So I'll start talking about what's big for 2016 in the Field Operations Department after I do a little bit more of an introduction of myself. Sorry about that. So I'm David Burke. I'm our Director of Field Operations. And I spent about 5 years as a Marine Corps officer, logistician, did deployment to Iraq and Afghanistan. A little bit of time in private industry, very brief actually, and then wandered for a little while, found TR about 2.5 years ago, and been a glutton for punishment ever since. I came in as an AmeriCorps Vista volunteer for the organization and worked my way through the ranks to this role about 1.5 years ago, and it's been an incredible challenge, an incredible opportunity, and I'm just happy to still be here supporting the strategy and supporting this whole team. So I'll kick off with some of the big things we have going on for 2016. And arguably the biggest move that we have for the organization this year is opening our National Operations Center in Dallas, Texas. And that center will be the home of our response team. It'll be the future home of almost all of our training and logistics support. And it's centrally located to help us support regionally and state-led operations better. We can get places faster, we can do things more cost effectively, and we can afford to expand a little bit, take up some space. Dallas is a lot more cost effective area than the Los Angeles area, so it gives us a little bit more flexibility on a tight nonprofit budget. What you can expect from that team is a fully functional emergency operations center that will track all domestic and international operations and help give a comprehensive situational awareness to everyone that's concerned with TR. And that goes all the way back to donors, supporters, our members, and then our district, state, regional, and full-time staff. Everybody has to have a good picture of what's going on so they know that they're moving in the same direction and helping us support the strategy that Art's talking about. We'll expand that capacity. We'll expand that capacity beyond disaster response operations. We'll get training and engagement operations incorporated into those processes so we can really have a true understanding of organizational capacity. As we shift that training team down to Texas, we'll start to increase our offerings to TR members, make sure that our instructor capacity matches our need of our growing member base, and explore ways that we can generate revenue through corporate training offerings. So that'll be an exciting thing second half of the year. But for the first half of the year, training's top priority is content. We owe our members high quality training that makes us as effective as possible in the field so that we can deliver the most impact possible when we do respond to disasters. And those curricula will start out with continuations of our chainsaw curricula. We'll do a core operations curricula that will outline some of the basics that TR members know, but some of our newest members can learn a lot and be more effective. We'll continue our partnership with the Fish and Wildlife Service and heavy equipment operations, and we'll continue to develop our disaster technology pipeline so that we make sure we can maximize the systems we put in the field and pair up some of that Steve talked about, our people, our process, and our technology, making sure that we do the best we can with what we have. One more plug for training. We've got our next cohort of Clay Hunt Fellows applications open, and that's open until April 1st. I don't know why we do that. It's not a joke. It really is just April 1st. So if you're interested in the Clay Hunt Fellows program, get your application in. I'll shift over to our membership team. Focus of membership this year is working across functions, state, district, and regional leaders to make sure that we ease and enhance the online member experience. We need to make sure that we smooth out that pipeline and engage members where they are in the process regularly so that you have the information you need to succeed, and we make sure that members make it from registered to deployable as fast as possible. So that's a huge effort for the membership team. And we'll also start to implement more consistent member recognition processes, which will include things like T-shirts and badges making out to new members when they do become deployable, and make sure that we get certificates of service after completing an operation. Make sure we recognize the leadership team that we have out across the country that dedicates so many hours to the organization through Presidential Service Awards and other opportunities that we can use to recognize members. We've gotten to a point, and Jake talks about scale, we've gotten to a point where we can re-engage internationally. And we brought Matt Pelak on board just about 6 months ago now, and he's really building a pipeline, a recruiting pipeline for our international deployers that will help us understand members' skill sets and interest for international deployment. So you can expect to see that in a more structured process to get engaged in international operations. And in addition to that online module, online pipeline that helps with recruiting, we'll be running our first pilot of an in-person selection event that will kind of mimic a special operations selection. We'll do it focused on the work that we do internationally, and you can expect to see that delivered a couple more times throughout the year and to a little bit broader audience. We've been selective on this one to make sure that we get a group of candidates to provide us feedback on the course and make sure we maximize it when we roll that out more largely. We've had some huge success with our incident management team this year. We're finding great adoption across the country. We're finding regions leveraging the incident management team. We're finding new and creative uses for those guys. Vince has done a great job building an awesome team, and we're getting requests that we didn't expect. We'll be supporting a multi-state National Guard exercise this summer in an overhead role, which is going to be a unique opportunity for TR to solidify itself in the space, serving as an incident management team for other agencies, other operations, and hopefully we'll be able to carve out that niche a little bit broader. But the main focus of that team is always to coach, mentor, and develop more field leaders across the regional and state leadership teams so that we don't have to send out national assets, so we can respond as locally as possible, and we have the strongest connections to the communities that we're serving. So to our knowledge, it's the first team that's designed specifically for that function, and we're excited to find great adoption across the country. So all those points kind of come together to help support something that we kicked off in December, which is decentralized response operations approval. So at the end of last year, we got to a point where we had enough full-time RAs and enough of a structured training pipeline, enough capacity in the regional membership base and field leadership and planning process, and really everything we do to run response operations, that we were able to decentralize our approval authority to any region that has a full-time RA that has attended IMT training and agency executive training and has already displayed the competency necessary to execute the planning process. So right now we have 50% of our regions that have regional approval authority for Type 5 and Type 4 operations, and 100% of our divisions, Mike and Nicole, both have attended all that training and can support and backfill where those regional administrators haven't made it to the training. But the result of that was in 2015, we ran 38 response operations. 33 of those were approved by the national response team, either Dennis or Vince or myself. In 2016, we've run 6 disaster response operations, and 0 have been approved by the national response team. They've all been approved by either Mike and Nicole or a full-time regional administrator stepping up and taking on that challenge. So it's a huge responsibility. It's a huge shift for the organization. And ultimately, the hope is that it will allow us to help more people more quickly, be more agile, and get to those spots where maybe there's not a lot of media attention, maybe there's not a lot of other support from other disaster relief organizations, but having that decentralized authority will help us respond more quickly to folks that need help that they otherwise aren't going to have an opportunity to get. So that's the driving force for the year. We're going to continue to decentralize, and as regions display more capacity, that Type 5-4 will increase to Type 3 and Type 2 and Type 1. And that may take a little bit longer than 2016, but that's where we're going. So we're going to talk about the divisions next. So Jake's going to take us back to that.
So like I mentioned, with the technology snafu, Mike and Nicole are unable to join us remotely. Mike Monroe is our Division I administrator based out of Washington, D.C., and Nicole Green is our Division II DA based out of Dallas, Texas. So in their absence, I'm going to go ahead and try to give their brief. I'm going to ask that you pretend that my pecs are about twice as big so that I look and sound like Mike Monroe. But I think the first thing that we really want to point to is that in 2015, we made it a point organizationally to begin hiring full-time employees at the regional level. And for our supporters out there who aren't maybe as familiar with how we're organized, our nearly 35,000 volunteers are organized into 10 geographic regions. And over the course of our history, those regions have always been led by teams of volunteer leaders who oversee various functional areas within each region. And that leadership structure at the regional level is mirrored down at the state and local level. And we've done a tremendous job of scaling with those volunteer leaders. But we felt like it was time for us to begin investing in full-time staff within those regions. And so in 2015, we set out to hire a regional administrator within each of those 10. We brought on some great corporate partners and foundation partners to help fund those positions. Marcus Foundation, PricewaterhouseCooper, the Jib Foundation here in Los Angeles, and the Schultz Family Foundation up in Region 10. And throughout the course of the year, we hired 8 of 10 full-time RAs, and we think we maybe have found the 9th, and we're looking for our 10th in Region 6 out of Dallas. So whoever's out there and is interested, please let us know. But we're still waiting to see what the impact of these full-time RAs is. You know, many of them are still relatively new to the role. What we expect to see out of this is increased engagement, increased accountability, as David mentioned, an increase op approval authority, and you know the metrics and the numbers that David mentioned indicate that that's in fact true. You know, 33 of 38 operations in 2015 required national headquarters approval, but all 6 of the ones that we've already run here in 2016, none of them have required that. They've all been managed, planned for, approved, and executed at the regional level, and that's just a huge transition for us and one that we're really proud of. Mike and Nick and their regional administrators, both full-time and volunteer, have done a tremendous job there. I think that the other thing that's really important to point out is that we are going to see a huge increase in engagement, in non-operational engagement specifically. So as new members are joining the organization, how is it that we're engaging them in between disasters, before, during, and after, right? And if you look at the numbers from January and February of last year, we had 62 engagement events. When you look at the numbers from January and February of 2016, we've already had 120. So we've seen 100% year-over-year growth just through the first 2 months of the year. Now, as we all know, we haven't even come close to hitting the busy season yet. So we expect these numbers to just jump through the roof as soon as we hit really April through September. And we're really excited to see what's going to happen with that. I think moving forward, what we're trying to do is continue to decentralize some of these authorities. We want to push down and empower leaders at all levels to be able to plan and execute these engagement events. And really, it's about working with field operations and specifically membership and training to optimize that new member experience. You know, as Pat Ross, who works in membership, talks about, it's from click to shovel. From the moment somebody joins the organization, how are we at the regional level maximizing their experience with the organization from the moment they click in on roll call for the very first time to the first time they pick up a shovel on an operation. Let's make that experience as meaningful and as seamless as possible, and that's really what we're focused on. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn it over to our Director of Communications and Marketing, Jaya. Jaya joined us middle of last year, and she's going to talk to you a little bit about what our communications and marketing team have been up to, other than kicking ass and setting up this Audible for us today.
Hi, everyone. So I've been on board now for about 7 or 8 months. I come from a 10-year career in corporate marketing on the East Coast, and then switched over to LA and worked with an international disaster response organization for about 5 years. Without naming names, this organization's been around for about 30 years and has just really kind of grinded to a halt as far as how they market themselves. They're not reaching new audiences. Their brand isn't growing. They're not becoming a household name. And that's really the reason I saw Team Rubicon and the voice and brand that this communications team has already built, and saw that they're doing amazing things. And it's really because of what you're doing out there in the field. It really has shaped the way we talk about ourselves, our visual identity, and the way we continue to promote ourselves out there. So we've really, over 2015, had a lot of growth as far as brand visibility, raising our profile in areas like social media, as well as media hits. There's been a lot of really big networks that have profiled us on shows, and large print publications as well. Some of the larger ones were The View. Hopefully you guys got to see that with Kristen Rouse, Lourdes Tiglau, and General Petraeus. They were featured on a panel about veterans issues. And then, of course, Jake was on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, along with Eric Greitens, the night before Thanksgiving. It was a lot of fun.
I was funnier than Stephen.
Of course. Not dressed as well, but also featured, Kirk's video was featured on History Channel, one of our PSAs. We've had Forbes do a print article about us, as well as US News and World Report. And then hopefully you guys have had a chance to read Charlie Mike, which really delved into our history and evolution as a mission-focused organization. And then coming up, we've had a reporter from Outside Magazine really profile our work over the last couple months, visit us here in the office, really get to know who we are, and hopefully we'll see a really nice piece about us in the coming months. So hopefully we'll look for that soon. As far as our social media footprint, really we have you to thank for going out there and being brand ambassadors for us. Facebook has really exploded as far as our impressions. I mean, over the last year alone, we've had 22 million impressions on our posts. We also added about 16,000 Facebook followers, which puts us over 110K. And just 80K of those came in just over the last 3 years alone. So the reach that we have is really, really quite remarkable. Twitter also, 20,000 people are following us on Twitter. And it's really also a tool for us to reach out, and Bobby's constantly kind of feeding that content beast and reaching out to partners and corporations, donors, as well as celebrities like Rob Riggle, and kind of telling them who we are so that they come back and support us. And Rob, of course, came and joined us at our fundraiser in LA. And then we're also really using the latest technology out there as far as Periscope, Snapchat. There's not a lot of organizations like us that are using new media, so we're really right at that edge. The website, we have over 1,500 people visit each day, which equates to about 550,000 visits a year. That's a lot of people taking a look at who we are. It could be people that have never heard of us and are learning about us for the first time, media who really want to profile us, donors who really want to know, where's my money going. So we're really taking a look at how to improve all of these channels. And so what does this all mean? I mean, why do we care that we have so many people taking a look at us? It ultimately equates to raising awareness of our brand so that we increase our membership. People are giving us more money to put towards operations, and overall just highlighting the extraordinary work that you guys are doing in the field. So we thank you for that and hope to see more and more media hits out there. Next up is Candace, our Director of HR.
Hey guys, I'm Candace Schmidt, Director of Human Resources here at TR.
That is the hardest job in the history of Team Rubicon, by the way, human resources.
I can't believe she's still here.
I got sucked in a little over 2 years ago. Had a lot of fun ever since. This is not the hardest or the worst job, despite what you may think. No, it's been a great time, and what an incredible time to be part of TR and everything that's going on. So 2015 was an exciting year in the HR world. We added 32 open positions, which for an organization of our size as far as full-time staff goes is tremendous. And of those, 23 were brand new positions to TR, which means we're building capacity for your guys' full-time support team, which is great. We had a special focus last year in development, finance, training, and then the regional administration team, so that we could deliver on some of the stuff that we talked about, which is really just more opportunity and more engagement events and opportunities for you guys. So that was exciting, and that's a 60% growth last year for your full-time support team. So I think that's great, and the good news is we're not slowing down there. We have 12 open positions right now, which I'm going to list, and you'll see, you're hearing a lot of the things that we're going to focus on this year, and you're going to see these positions are what's going to help us support that and build capacity, to get you guys to be able to execute on some of this stuff. I'm going to run down the list real quick, but you're going to hear a lot of membership, technology, continuing to build at the regional level, and then we have our new National Operations Center, which will be adding positions to. So I'm going to call out especially those that are going to be located in Dallas. So we have Region 4 admin open, Region 6 administrator in Dallas. Who do you know?
We're looking for you.
We have a recent opening in Region 10. So we are sadly saying goodbye to BJ. Then we have a member engagement associate, which is going to be based here in Los Angeles. We have a senior member engagement associate also here in Los Angeles, and going to be really critical to some of those things that David was talking about, how we can better that member experience for you guys. Ops membership associate is going to be based in the Dallas Operations Center, National Operations Center. So again, who do you know in Dallas? Ops finance associate to help us out with the finance on the ops side of things, make that smooth and painless for you guys. We have a new CFO opening, so we're going to kick back up that search. So you'll see this team here get one bigger. Communications officer, a lot going on, as you heard from Jay's update. And then technology, we're going to add a cloud systems administrator to help out with things like today. Field technician gets you some support so you can have better days than today.
None of those would have solved today, just so.
No. Hey, shit happens. And then I'm going to get some additional capacity on my team with an HR generalist so that we can continue to build this support team for you guys, so you can continue to get shit done and do big things. We're ambitious with our plans, and I'm excited to see where we're going. So thanks for letting me be part of this.
I never would have thought that she was going to drop the first cuss word on
She
me.
did.
Oh, God, this is the second time that's happened to me. Oh, maybe it's been too long. I'm going to kick it over to DePauli now to talk about finance.
Hi, TR. I'm DePauli Mehta. I'm Director of Finance. I started with TR back in 2011 as a volunteer. A couple of years later, I joined as an employee, so I'm looking at my unofficial 5-year anniversary coming up. What do I get for unofficial? Nothing. I know, right? Anyway, so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the finances, just some top level numbers. I was hoping to have a slide for you to look at, but technology got in the way. So I'll try to make this easy to follow without looking at a slide. Oh, there you go. Okay. All right. So first step is looking at our balance sheet. So from 2014 to 2015, our net assets increased from 3.5 million to 7 million. So we've doubled there. That's a big deal. If you're wondering what drives that, it's our revenues and expenses. So looking at 2015, our revenues were 7.5 million and our expenses were 6.9. That netted to $500,000, and that is a 7% profit margin. Looking ahead to 2016, we're looking at a lot of growth. Our revenues are projected to be 13.9 million and our expenses at 11.1 million. So that nets to 2.8 million, which more importantly is a 20% profit margin. So we're looking to go from 7% to 20%. So that's good stuff. So as Jake will talk, there's a lot of stuff in the pipeline. We're looking for another strong year, and it's going to be great. Back to you, Jake.
So unfortunately, our Director of Development, Laura Atwell, could not join us either because of our technology challenges today. You know, the fundraising component of Team Rubicon has never been better or healthier. We have a ton of great partnerships that are in the pipeline, and our historic partners have continued to just step up to the plate. You know, some of our traditional corporate partners like the Home Depot Foundation, Walmart, PricewaterhouseCoopers, Goldman Sachs, Citi, all, you know, Tyson Foods, all of these incredible partners who, over the course of the last couple of years, have really believed in what we're doing and chosen to invest in us. You know, we just signed a major contract and grant agreement with Wounded Warrior Project, and Wounded Warrior Project is going to step up and invest $9 million over the next 5 years into our growth and development. And this is something that we've been working on with WWP really for the last 12 months, and we finally got it across the finish line. And we think that this level of investment, you know, $9 million, is really indicative of what people see the potential for this organization as. We've got a lot of really other exciting opportunities that are on the table. I was with David in Connecticut just on Monday, talking to a big insurance company who's very interested in working with us in a large way. So I think what we're starting to see is that the tremendous work and consistency that we have out in the field is starting to pay dividends. And so that kind of brings me to really the second half of this conversation. And I'm going to try to wrap this up in 5 minutes so that we can get to your questions, which are really the most important part of the evening. But, you know, where do we go from here, right? Over the last 6 years, we've seen a tremendous amount of growth. We've gone from 8 volunteers to nearly 35,000, you know, four missions or operations in our first year to 38 last year, and who knows, 55, 60 this year, putting David on the spot. There's really nothing, I think, that, you know, that we're not constrained. We haven't hit our ceiling yet. There are more disasters, more communities that need assistance. There are more volunteers who are looking to get involved. So we have our work cut out for us, right? So where do we go? You know, the vision that we've set for this organization is pretty simple. We want to be the best disaster response organization in the world. We think we can take the best human capital out there, our returning men and women who are coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan and transitioning to civilian life. We think that we can give them the training that's necessary and pair them up with civilian first responders and civilian volunteers, and deploy these teams into disaster-stricken communities to help people on their worst day. And we think that over time, we can become the best organization in the world that does that. So how do we do that, right? We have a lot of momentum coming out of 2015 and going into this year and beyond. So how do we capture that momentum and continue to build something that isn't just good for today, right? But something that we're building that can last the next 5 years, 10 years, 50, 100 years, and continue to help people for decades long after we're working at Team Rubicon. Really, you know, the thing that we need to think about, all of us, not just the people that are here, but all of you that are watching, whether you're a volunteer, whether you're a supporter on Facebook, or whether you're a donor that at a corporation that's investing 6 or 7 figures into our work, is it's not about solving problems that are appearing today. It's really about building for tomorrow. And that requires us to take that momentum that we have coming out of last year and apply a real discipline to it. You know, move forward into 2016, and this mantra that we've developed internally is disciplined momentum. How is it that we can continue to move forward without careening out of control? If we're thinking about the long-term needs of this organization, it's about really 3 things. It's about, first, improving the member experience. We want to make sure that we live by that mantra, that cultural maxim that we have, mission first and gray shirts always, right? At the end of the day, we are a disaster response organization. We need to help people on their worst day in communities that are impacted by disasters. But in order to maximize our ability to do that, we have to take care of our volunteers. We have to make sure that from the moment that they sign up to the moment that we deploy them, all the way through the moment when they get back home and take off that ruck, you know, and say hello to their family for the first time in a week, that experience is valuable, that it's meaningful, and that it's life-changing for them. They have to feel like there's a plan. They have to feel like there's a roadmap for their involvement with the organization. That roadmap has to provide value to them. So a lot of what we're doing this year is building the necessary capacity internally, whether that's in full-time employees in the membership team working for Pat Ross in the field operations department, or whether that's technologists that are focusing on the systems and platforms that have this enterprise impact across the organization that allows us to scale some of these things to meet that need. All the way through, how are we actually deploying these people with the process, the necessary process, so that it's seamless and painless and free of frustration, right? And then finally, how do we make sure that the scope, the mission scope, the capacity, the capabilities that we're bringing to these communities is adding real value, right? We ended last year with a 7-to-1 economic impact ratio, which means that for every dollar that we spent on a disaster operation last year, we delivered $7.04 of volunteer contribution to that community, right? So that's a 7-to-1 ratio. And that's a ratio that we want to continue to improve upon year over year from now until our target of 10-to-1 at the end of 2018, right? And if volunteers know that their hours are having that type of impact in the communities that they're serving, that means that we're taking care of them. That gets back to that gray shirt always. So summing up that first point, it's improving that member experience and that member conversion, right? The second thing is improving our systems and processes and making sure that anything that we do can scale. Listen, this organization is growing really, really fast, right? And at times that growth can become frustrating, right? Because processes that were built yesterday break today. So we have to make sure that we're taking the time to think ahead, right? To think not just about how do we solve this acute problem that we see now, but solve it in a way that is that's going to endure, right? And eventually all solutions, all systems break at some point under pressure, right? But how can we make sure that we're building stuff that's not going to break within the next 12 months, but hopefully break somewhere down the line at 5 years? So it's really about putting systems, whether that's technology platforms or whether that's processes and how we vet and dispatch volunteers to disasters in place that can scale as the organization scale, right? We have to think about this process might work at 38 operations and 30,000 members, but does this process work at 100 operations and 100,000 members? If we can think about that and be deliberate in how we work through those problems, then we're gonna be maintaining that discipline momentum that we're talking about. And the final thing is sustainable revenue sources. Listen, one of my favorite sayings is that there are a dozen things in the world that are more important than money. The reality is they all cost money. So as we're building this organization, we have to pay attention to the money that we're bringing in. The work that we're doing, the value that we're adding to communities, it costs money. It costs real dollars and cents. Now, we've been lucky that over the course of the last 6.5 years, people have voted in confidence for us with their wallets, right? People have invested in this organization, from the people that are donating $10 a month and have been doing that for the last 60 months, right? We have those donors all the way to the people, the corporate executives, the corporate social responsibility departments who are coming in and saying, you know what? We have a couple pillars of philanthropy, one of which is disaster response or veteran reintegration. And we've surveyed the landscape of organizations and we want to invest in Team Rubicon. And we're going to invest $1 million a year for the next 3 years. You know, each one of those individuals is extremely important. And ultimately, our organization look like, not in 2016, but in 2026, which I can't even conceive of what that world looks like. Hopefully they have at least self-driving cars, who knows. Our long-term sustainability, 10, 15, 20 years from now, is tied to this organization becoming the front of America's consciousness, right? So that when bad things happen, the first organization that they think of is Team Rubicon. And if that happens, then we can ensure that we have sustainable revenue through hundreds of thousands of individual supporters across the country willing to open up their wallets and give us $5, $10, $50 at a time. And if we can do that, then we can ensure that we can scale with confidence, and after that scale, achieve sustainability. So those are the 3 real big things that we're focused on this year and likely focused on for the next 2 or 3 years. Improving that member conversion rate and experience, improving the systems and processes and ensuring that each one we put in place can scale with the organization, and identifying and exploiting those sustainable revenue sources. So that's what we're focused on with the full-time staff and the volunteer leaders that we have throughout the organization. We hope that you can feel that impact. Sometimes it might not be as perceptible as others, but understand that we are working diligently here 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, nearly, at least it feels like it, to make this organization better and keep it moving forward with that disciplined momentum that we need. So we invited some of our friends to join us today, and we hope you don't mind, but we're not going to do a Q&A without a beer in our hand. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to open it up to questions. Now, the technology platform that we wanted to use was going to allow us to actually pop you up on the screen and we could have a two-way conversation as we talked about the question that you had. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to do that. So our digital engagement coordinator, Bobby, is going to be taking your questions and she's going to be shouting them out to us, and we'll kick it around up here for discussion and hopefully get to the answer that you were looking for. So go ahead and start firing away.
Awesome. So we had at one point about 500 people watching. We have about 400 live right now. So thanks for adjusting to anybody who's listening. First question is from Kathleen Blair, who said, aside from expenses, why Dallas? She might be from Kansas. Kansas is centrally located, almost geographic center of the country, and has some old bases that might be available for reuse and very cheap. So in short, why Dallas?
Go ahead, you answer.
So, hey, no, it's a great question. Kansas is a little bit closer to the geographic center of the country, which is somewhere in South Dakota, which is totally not an option. But Dallas offers a few things. I hope Krista Lopez isn't listening because she'll read a few more points. But Dallas is very, it's got a low likelihood of disaster. Occasional freezing rain, but for the most part, maybe a tornado or two. But for the most part, Dallas is pretty well safe zone. It's out of hurricanes. There is some seismic activity. I know somebody's going to throw that one out, but it also has 6 major interstates and 2 major airports, which makes it an ideal logistics hub. And aside from geographic center, it's actually much closer to the geographic center of most of our disaster operations domestically. So it gives us an opportunity to be as close as possible to most of the operations we're executing, whether we're actually sending direct support from that facility or just trying to be as close as possible, same time zones and same area of work. So the reason Kansas gets a little bit worse winters, they have a little bit, much more tornadic activity. So that's what drove us a little bit further south.
And I'll add 2 other things. Dallas has a major international airport, so for supporting international operations as a staging area. You already said that? Sorry. And the second one is that there's a tremendous opportunity to raise money in Dallas. And so we definitely evaluated that when we looked at opening an office there. We thought, can we sustain this with revenue that can be generated there locally? That's not to say that there aren't some deep pockets in Kansas, but I think, on a per capita basis, there's much more opportunities to raise funds in Dallas.
I'll add one more. Sure. So we started in Dallas with a 3-year lease because we know it's a temporary solution. Our large scale needs, what we hope to see in the Dallas or in a central location, is a full campus type facility with our emergency operations center, all training activity, a much larger logistics footprint with much larger organic capability, from larger construction capability to heavy equipment capability. So if there's a base that's closing down and they want to donate to a nonprofit, then we'll definitely take a look at Kansas, because that will be a much different facility.
All right, Bobby, what do we got next?
Krista Lopez is watching and she enjoys Jake's shirt.
I knew this. Brian Brown, here you go, right here. This one's for you, baby.
Also, a question from Brian Fernandez, also a follow-up with Lourdes there. Can we look forward to more assist courses in the future? The follow-up would be, can we have more train-the-trainer courses available to members?
So we do actually have a few train-the-trainer slots that are available. One of the challenges is they're a little bit tough logistically. They're very expensive courses, but we do have, I'll have to get an accurate number for everybody and we can do a follow-up after this, but we do have train-the-trainer courses. We've selected a handful of train-the-trainer folks that'll be going through in the next couple of months to expand that capacity, and then the goal is to maximize the folks that do go through that train-the-trainer course, so we get as many classes as we can out of them.
Rick Williams says, it's nice to have full-time RAs and other paid employees, but have you considered part-time? Perhaps not the RAs, but other positions? Guess my thought is that you might have many retired members who would be interested, but maybe not full-time, something part-time.
Sure. So we've just now sort of built up the administrative capabilities to support part-time and variable hour staff. We kicked that off with an intern program, which we have a few internships posted right now. There'll be more coming. This is an area we've really been able to build some awesome capacity and provide recent graduates or current students or even non-students the opportunity to get involved and see what it is we do in a lot of different areas. So I think we're going to be starting there and then kind of see where that takes us as far as how to best utilize part-time support. But absolutely, I think that's a possibility and something we're going to see more of in the coming year.
Yeah, one of the challenges, of course, is having part-time remote. That's a big challenge. And so as we open up the Dallas office, as we expand our new office here in Los Angeles, we will probably start to see an expansion of part-time roles. And are you going to talk about the IMT opportunities?
Yeah, so the incident management team has a fairly limited number of folks that are contracted part-time employees. They're not employees of Team Rubicon. We use a third party system for that. But the other opportunity that will scale a little bit larger than the incident management team will be our instructor cadres, and that'll be ICS instructors, chainsaw instructors, heavy equipment instructors, assist instructors. We will move to a model where we compensate our instructors for their weekends, because we have gotten to a point where we're asking our volunteer instructors to take on a ton. So we're trying to put things in place so that we can do that sooner than later. So for our instructors that are listening, we'll eventually roll out a way to pay you. But that's an opportunity that if anybody wants to get more involved, to get involved in one of those specialty areas and become an instructor, will be an opportunity to engage with the organization and get some compensation. So.
Good follow-up to that. Jeffrey Lemberger would like to know, there's been a heavy equipment train the trainer course. Will there be an opportunity for the basic heavy equipment operator course for, say, Region 9 or other members?
Yeah, so we're going to continue to roll out the heavy equipment training program. That's a partnership that relies heavily on the Fish and Wildlife Service. So we're doing the first pilot. We did 2 basic operator courses, and of those 2 basic operator courses, we pulled together a group for instructor training. So the instructors will get out into the country. They'll work to coordinate with their local Fish and Wildlife Service refuges, and they'll start to deliver trainings across the country. I wouldn't expect it to happen too aggressively. Probably more second half of the year than the first half, but we'll start rolling it out as fast as we can.
Keep those questions coming.
We have a question from Mike, kind of regarding our relationship with Wounded Warrior Project. It seems that he believes that helping vets has taken a back seat. So if you want to elaborate a little bit more on our partnership and why.
Yeah, so we're really excited about the Wounded Warrior Project opportunity. Before I really get on that, though, I'll kind of address the perception, perhaps, that veterans have taken a back seat. Listen, make no mistake, we're a disaster response organization. That is who we are. That is what we do. What makes us unique is our engagement of military veterans to execute that mission better than anybody else, okay? And the consequence of doing that is that these veterans in that process regain those senses of purpose and community and identity. And that's not exclusive to the veterans who participate, right? The civilians who participate in this organization get those 3 things in spades as well. But we see disaster response not as a hobby, right? This is a mission set that requires it to be our full focus. It's too dangerous to treat it in any other way. And so that is why we have our full focus and emphasis on that, responding to disasters as professionally as possible. We also feel that responding to disasters provides a mission that really, at the end of the day, is an unparalleled opportunity for veterans to regain those 3 things, right? It's a mission that is exciting. It's a mission that has real impact. It's a mission that represents a true need in communities, an opportunity to continue to serve, right? And so it's not that veterans are taking a back seat. It's really, this is our vehicle. Disaster response is our vehicle for helping to reintegrate these veterans, okay? So the reality, though, is that there are some things that many veterans need that we can't provide, right? There are, veterans that are looking for employment. and help with that. There are veterans that are looking for assistance with their benefits with the VA. There are veterans that are looking for access to health care and transition services and all of these other things. We're an organization that does not provide any of those things. We're big believers in do what you do best and trade for the rest, right? So we partner with best-in-class organizations that can provide those things. And we think Wounded Warrior Project is one of those organizations. And that street goes both ways, right? Wounded Warrior Project has access to a database of Wounded Warrior alumni who can participate in our activities, right? And we can provide something to them that Wounded Warrior Project maybe can't, you know, a mission, a purpose, right? A different identity. Wounded Warrior Project can provide some of those things to some extent, but we can certainly provide it in a different capacity, right? And then vice versa, our veterans who qualify for WWP services, we can refer them to all of the programs that WWP offers in order to get that. And in doing so, we don't have to build up those same services and duplicate efforts and really waste resources when we should be focused on doing what we do best. So if there's a follow-up to that question, I'm happy to address it, but we're really thrilled with this opportunity. And it's in line with a lot of the other veteran service organization partnerships we have out there, whether it's Give an Hour, where we refer veterans who are looking for mental health resources, or whether it's Team Red, White, and Blue to help us whip our volunteers back into shape through physical fitness. We don't want to replicate any of those programs. We want to partner with best-in-class organizations.
In the same vein, Ashley Silver asks, you talk a lot about our big partners who support the team, Southwest, Home Depot, Goldman Sachs, etc. How do we choose who we partner with?
It's a great question. So how do we choose who we partner with? You know, at the end of the day, if their check will clear, we'll take money from just about anybody, right? No. So I actually said this to a potential partner on Monday. I was talking to a C-suite level, a chief administrative officer, probably the #2 person at this company. This company is on the Dow Jones Industrial Average. It's one of the 30 biggest companies in the country.
$27 billion a year in revenue.
$27 billion a year in revenue. And he asked me the same question, and I said the same answer. We'll take, you know, if your check will clear, we'll take it, right? But that's not who we partner with, and that's not how we identify partners, right? When we're looking for partners, we're looking for organizations that, you know, have where there's a dual benefit to the relationship and where there's cultural alignment. There have been many times when we've been approached by corporations who want to develop a partnership when really they just simply want something from us, or they just want to give us money. That's not a partnership, right? A partnership has to work both ways. And in some ways, it's kind of like a marriage, right? And so we're very careful about our partnerships. And really, at the end of the day, we are very blunt and honest with potential partners. They ask us questions, and we give them very, very blunt answers. And some of those answers can scare them away. And that's happened. And that's fine, because we don't want bad partners, right? And so if there's cultural alignment and if there's mutual value, then we'll pursue a partnership with just about anybody. But make no mistake, if your check clears, we'll take the money. We just might not build a deep partnership with you.
So Mark asks, why waste money and keep 2 offices open, especially in Los Angeles? Why not combine the 2 and save the organization funding by co-locating?
Listen, I think that's a very utilitarian question, right? And it doesn't take into account a lot of other factors that go into having 2 different locations. The reality is that we have 35 people who have built their lives around this office here in Los Angeles, and we'd have to first ask the question, would it be fair to ask all of them to uproot their kids out of school and move their families across the country and start new lives in one of the weirdest parts of the United States, Texas?
Kurt's got something to say.
No.
We just lost
Yeah,
100 calls.
No. Nothing but love for Texas. But seriously, I mean, that's an enormous question to ask. And somebody might say, well, you know, if it's what's best for the organization, then you do it. Well, I think there's also things to factor in, like employee morale and retention and things like that. The reality is that we built this organization based out of Los Angeles because that's where William and I were living at the time that we went to Port-au-Prince, right? I'm an accidental Californian. I grew up in Iowa, and I was here because of the Marine Corps, right? That's the only reason why we're here. But we're here, and now 35 employees later in Los Angeles, we're really happy here. But the reality is that it's also a unique position for us to be in. We made a deliberate choice early on in the organization not to relocate the headquarters to a more natural place like Washington, D.C. or New York. And we did that because we wanted to stay outside of the Beltway. We didn't want to get, really brainwashed like all the other organizations that find themselves in D.C. who just sit around conference tables and talk about how awesome they are. We wanted to be different. And I think that we've accomplished that. And one of the other things that we've accomplished is that we are one of the only veteran service organizations of national relevance that's headquartered in Los Angeles. That provides a tremendous opportunity for us to tap into funds that are here that we otherwise wouldn't have access to. And so there are a lot of reasons why we wouldn't do that. But I think it's a good question. I think it's a question that's worth asking. And at the end of the day, we are always evaluating what we're doing through the lens of what's in the best interest of the organization, right? Certainly the financial interest of the organization is one consideration. We always look at that. One of our cultural principles is your mother's a donor. Treat every dollar as if your mother gave it to you. But at the same time, there are a lot of other factors that go into every decision we make. Does anybody want to weigh in on that? You don't have to.
No, I guess the only thing I'd add is, there's a real utility. Jake said that's a utilitarian question. There's a real utility to having two full-time locations to split our staff to make sure we have a continuity of operations. Yeah, there could be a major earthquake in LA. Eventually, there will be a major earthquake in LA. But to make sure that we have full-time people with access to financial instruments, with access to the ability to run the organization, if either location experiences a major failure, then we still have a functioning disaster relief organization that can respond to whatever that event is. So there is a real reason to have more than one office.
And listen, before too long, we'll have more than two. So, we can continue to ask that question, but I think having multiple locations is advantageous.
I was going to say the same thing. It's a question that we've talked about a lot, and I'm sure we will continue to have that question come up and reevaluate. And
to get Candace out of LA, though, is going to take a
I don't know how much of this they can get, but not going anywhere.
So, unofficial survey, I'm pretty sure that the support we get from Silicon Valley in terms of our suite of technologies is unprecedented. I don't know of another organization that gets the level of support that we do.
Yeah.
I talk with partners in other disaster relief organizations that are amazed at the suite of tools that we have that are donated that represent an investment that is well beyond the cost of operating this office. Okay.
Donations, partnerships, and these people working closely with us, the community here has really engaged us in a way that it is hard to pull away.
Yeah, and so it helps being that close to San Francisco. And, I think that one thing that might be important to point out is that, obviously we're transitioning to a new office. We're doing this from an office that we only just gained the legal ability to occupy 4 hours ago.
3 hours ago.
3 hours ago. Because our other lease was wrapping up. And so that, it might be a worthwhile question to say, well, you had one lease ending. It was the natural opportunity to transition to maybe Dallas or another location that was cheaper. Reality is, we evaluated the landscape of real estate options here in Los Angeles. We found the space that's absolutely amazing. Brand new owner from the building. You should see the view. We are literally 300 steps to the terminal at Los Angeles World Airports, and it's cheaper. It's cheaper per square foot than for us to have stayed in the place that we were at just down the road. It gives us this incredible access to the airport where not only can we walk to the terminal with our gear when we need to deploy, but as our major supporters from around the country fly in and out of Los Angeles on business, we can literally pick them up from the airport and swing them by the office just for a chat. And finally, we had a major foundation going back to access to resources. We had a foundation that's only focused in Los Angeles who gave us $100,000 specifically for this space. Really, because they love having Team Rubicon in LA. So there are advantages to what we were able to do here.
A couple questions on the Clay Hunt Fellows Program from Matt and Deb. What is the latest news on the fellowship program, and are we able to see the projects they're working on or have any insight as to what they're doing?
Great question.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So the fellows are the program's broken into a few different phases. The initial phase is the self-discovery and kind of mapping your leadership objectives for the year. And then the next phase really gets into the capstone projects. And the fellows are kicked off their capstone projects about a month to 2 months ago. After long selection with vetting project support from the full-time staff, making sure that they had the resources they needed to be successful in identifying a project and getting something at the end of the year that was able to be implemented so that their work wasn't for naught. You know, it's no fun to have something in the round file after a year's worth of work. So we've got five, or I think it's 5 fellows project. Michael Davidson's probably just shaking his head right now. And I won't list them out, but we'll make sure that we get some information out to the member base on what the projects are and what the impacts will be. I had an awesome call with John Conway right before I came over here for this. John Conway and Daniel Gilbert are working on a fellows project for really what Jake has as priority number 1 for the year: improve member conversions and experience. And you know, we got the feedback from our cultural survey. We identified some priorities that we had to fix immediately, and it interfered with the fellows project. But the awesome learning experience for all of us was that we're not going to stop for anything to improve the experience that our members have. And John and Danielle have flexed, and they're adjusting and identifying the next step of what can maximize that member experience for their project. So that's kind of an exciting anecdote that's very recent. But we can get a little bit of an update out, maybe via social media or just to a member's post, to get an update on projects and what's going on with the
Yeah, the fellows program, every cohort we have, the entire experience is just improving. I'll say that, you know, Michael Davidson's really just done a tremendous job of developing it. We're really proud of the work he's doing. And, you know, quite frankly, you know, I get these updates on these random fellows projects, or these projects the fellows are working on, and I can't wait to see, you know, the final product. It's incredible. It's going to have a huge impact on the organization, and I truly feel like it's increased our capacity. You know, I mean, we feel at a national level like we have, you know, 8 extra bodies that are, you know, really pitching in and turning wrenches on really important initiatives. So it's been absolutely great.
The fellows have stepped it up. That's one of the things I think was most exciting to me last year when Michael did his presentation on these new fellows and what they're going to be doing. I mean, it's going to get competitive to get into that program. It's awesome.
It's nice to bring them back.
Everyone should check it out beyond just those asking the question.
So
Bobby, what else you got?
applying by April 1st. Patrick Smith says, "Go Badgers," which we always appreciate.
No one appreciates it.
Don't listen to Hawkeyes. They have nothing to hang on to but wrestling. How big do you expect the Bureau of Land Management program to get with our membership?
How big is the Bureau of Land Management program get? It's a brand new office. Are you kidding me?
I'm breaking it in.
Oh man.
$70.
Sorry, that was fun. It's gonna get big. Actually, the conversation around with the BLM right now is to make sure we understand how we can match capacity best. BLM has an opportunity to continue to invest in us, and we're going to continue to invest in that relationship as long as it's engagement and its capacity that our members are interested in. And so right now, as we go through the second year of the program, what we want to make sure is that we maximize the seats, we fill every opportunity, and we show BLM that our member base is as committed as we are. We do good coordination, we're a good partner. I think the BLM side has almost unlimited resources with the current interest, and that may change, but with the current investment they're making, it's pretty incredible. They've brought full-time staff on to help manage the relationship with TR directly. And some folks made some serious sacrifices to take on that opportunity at BLM, and they believe in what we're doing, and they believe that we're adding value to wildland fire. So it's an awesome.
And beyond BLM, Bureau of Land Management, I mean, we have to tip our hat to the entire Department of the Interior. Between BLM, Fish and Wildlife Service. I mean, if every department of the federal government ran as fast as DOI, a lot of problems would get solved. So
it's incredible.
Pretty great.
We haven't signed a partnership agreement with Bureau of Land Management.
Don't ruin it. Don't ruin it.
Is there wood in this office?
Bobby, what do we got?
Tracy Rankin, who recently, I think, served as an incident commander in her first operation recently, she asks, what is a knock it out of the park, I never thought we could do this forward-thinking mission or service you would love to do in the future, barring space travel?
Why are we barring space travel? We've got a rocket scientist.
Steve could take this
That's a great question.
We can talk about like the full-blown recovery.
Yeah, but before we get to that though, I mean, we've really tried to be very deliberate in maintaining fairly narrow operational focus. You know, it's really easy to start expanding the scope of things that you do. And the reality is that once you start doing that, you really just become pretty average at everything. And so we said, you know, we want to be really, really good at a couple of things. We want to, you know, really literally fill these gaps in services, bridge these gaps in services. I know we promised not to say that, but and so we did. We focused on some narrow set of things. And I think over time you'll see us start to expand what it is that we apply our skills to. Because at the end of the day, what we have are really talented volunteers who are working in a system, training to a common standard. But it's their attitude that they bring to disasters. It's this relentless and tenacious attitude that, you know, no obstacle is too big, no problem too hard. We're going to solve it. We're going to help people. And when you take that attitude and you put just even a small measure of training and standard to it, really there's nothing that's impossible. So, I mean, I'll take a couple stabs real quick. I think that the wildland firefighting thing that we did last year with BLM, we've been wanting to do that for 4 or 5 years, and to see that happen as fast as it did, and granted, you know, it's kind of a unique partnership, and they're technically not deploying as Team Rubicon, but that just blew my mind. I think that, you know, we've evaluated opportunities to plug in with the migrant crisis in the Mediterranean as these migrants are moving from Turkey to Greece and into Europe, and I think there's incredible opportunities there that maybe a couple of years ago we wouldn't have thought about plugging into. So I think that one of the things we might expand into is kind of some wilderness search and rescue stuff in some of our more remote regions, but I'll turn it over to David.
Well, we've done a little bit of search and rescue work, and you know, I guess Tracy, one of the things I'd say is it's you know, incident commanders like you, it's leaders in the field that go to a situation and say, here's the TR capability suite, and we can do all these things, but that's not what's important. What I need to know from you, you know, emergency manager or jurisdictional authority is what can I do that makes your day easier? And does any of this line up with that? Dave Venables took that approach, Jim Wardell took that approach down in Albemarle County, Virginia, in the Hannah Graham search last year. And, you know, they'll say the same thing. We didn't find Hannah Graham. We weren't the reason that 30 days worth of searching ended in finding remains and giving a family closure. But what stuck out in that Charlottesville sheriff's mind was Team Rubicon came with that mentality, that approach, that we're here with these capabilities, but we're not going to tell you how to run your incident. We're going to ask you where we can plug in the best support. That's how we knock it out of the park. Now, we do take a structured approach to how we build those capabilities and how we identify those gaps. And we've done that over the past 6 years, and over the past 4 to 5 years domestically. But one of the things that Jake and I talk about quite a bit is not expanding our response capabilities, but extending in the disaster cycle both ways, into readiness and into recovery. And when we talk about getting into recovery work, one of the things that I think just really solidifies our dual mission or fits really well with our dual mission is training veterans in trade skills to take on real recovery projects, real contract work. And knocking out of the park would be a TR institution that can accept GI Bill funding, that can bid on long-term recovery projects in a serious general contractor big way, and put veterans, transitioning veterans back to work, get them the experience that's so hard to get after a trade skills apprenticeship, and get them back on a road to a meaningful life. And that's something that's huge. It's a huge idea. It's the most ambiguous, unformed thing that we kick around. But if we can solve that, I think we'll have a huge impact both in veterans transitioning and good work being done in the recovery space, built to a different standard, built to a standard that we won't be requesting FEMA funds after the next event to rebuild a structure again. So that I think is just an incredible idea that we haven't had the time to invest to make it a reality, but that would be knocking on the park.
All right, we're going to take 2 more questions. I also have a message to deliver from our office manager watching from our old office. Kayla requests that you stop spilling PBR on her floor.
News to you, Kayla.
Mark asks, what marketing ideas do we have moving forward? We are using social media apps, etc., but what lies ahead for us as an organization?
Well, I mean, I think it really lies in partnerships, working with partners to delve into the audiences that they've already built, staying ahead of the curve as far as the technology solutions that we're using, things like Snapchat, things like Periscope, and feeling like we're kind of at the tip of the spear on finding new audiences.
Yeah, I think that one of the things we found over the years is that our story resonates. The joke that I've kind of said is that, when you combine disasters and then veterans, the only thing that would make that story more appealing to a producer is puppies. And, the reality is that we've been fairly fortunate over the years that channels and different shows and networks have wanted to tell TR story. I think that we're going to start to get a lot more deliberate about how we approach that. So far, it's all been, they've approached us, right? We've really not ever gone out and tried to pitch this idea, this story to outside agencies, but I think that we can start to get more deliberate in that. But I think that really the next evolution is in co-branding. I think we've started to build a very powerful brand. I think our brand very much stands for something, right? And I think that there are products out there are companies out there that if or when they learn about Team Rubicon, that they'll want to associate their brand or their product with it. We've started to see that. We've got a couple of major brands that we're talking to that are very, very interested in doing just that have tremendous upside for the organization. But I think there are a lot more out there. If I get one more person to ask me whether or not we're associated with Jeep Wrangler, I'll probably punch him in the face. And if anybody that works at Jeep is watching, I'm coming for you because you've never returned any of my phone calls. But I think that there are a lot of other options out there. And when you talk about reaching the mass market, or even stepping back further, when you talk about, as I said earlier, our long-term sustainability is tied to our ability to become at the front of America's consciousness, right? So that when bad things happen, the people in this country think of Team Rubicon first and foremost. In order to do that, we have to create this echo chamber, right? People have to see the logo, they have to hear the name, they have to associate it with disasters, they have to associate it with veterans, and that all has to happen in this echo chamber where it's happening from different angles, across different mediums, whether it's television, radio, online, a cardboard box on a store shelf where we've been co-branded with some product, a bumper sticker driving down the highway. We have to create that, and it's going to take time. It's really the long-term thing, but I think one of the biggest areas that we could expand is in that co-branding, general merchandise. So,
All right, to wrap it up, and anybody who has lingering questions, we'll do our best to actually answer those through YouTube. John asks, will TR USA see a reduced role in international operations as TR Global increases, as well as TRs around the globe?
That's a great question, and we're really excited about the launch of Team Rubicon UK. Their founding team over there, I think we'd all agree, they spent a week with us in December. I don't know that we could have gotten any luckier on the quality of individuals that they have. I mean, they're amazing. They were absolutely an incredible group of people. So we're really proud, and you know what? It was great because these UK guys and gals were out in Los Angeles working with us, trying to get that mind melt going, and they were launching their first domestic operation ever from Los Angeles while they were doing it. I mean, it's terrible to think about the people that were flooded in central England, but it was pretty incredible to see, kind of that timing and what that meant and what it represented, and really drove home what we were trying to do. That being said, as the UK is coming online and they're building up and they're growing fast, and we're looking at Australia and Canada and Germany and some of these other countries, it in no way will diminish our international response efforts. David talked about in his brief, we're beginning to invest more in our international capability. And really, the goal of what we're trying to do with standing up a TR UK or a TR Australia is to enhance our international capability. You know, one of the things we saw in Nepal was that the British, with their unique history, and their unique history specifically with the nation of Nepal, brought this unique capability where they were able to go and bring these Gurkha, British Gurkha soldiers to the mission, and that provided a cultural liaison element to our teams that really enhanced the mission set.
So yeah, I guess just to zoom out, the Team Rubicon global focus, you know, their operational focus is to establish Team Rubicon affiliates in, you know, coalition countries. So that's Team Rubicon Global's operational objective, is to stand up new TRs, engage veterans in coalition countries that fought alongside us in Iraq and Afghanistan. And that expands our network globally, expands our ability to engage in international operations in a mutually supporting way. Team Rubicon Global's focus is not to respond internationally, it is to establish new organizations. And so as we increase our international operations capacity, it will only be complemented by the additional network of contacts and introductions and routes into other areas that may need our support. You think about the UK and Nepal, and then think about the UK and the Commonwealth system in Northern Africa and the routes that opens up, and you think about Australia responding in the Pacific. I mean, it's opportunities to get involved and add capacity internationally to make sure that TR is still the first on the ground, and can follow through with the capacity necessary to meet the needs. So,
I'd like to add to that. So we're driving brand, we're driving process, and also technology. So as the organizations come together overseas, here at home, we'll be able to interchange, trade personnel, and there'll be a natural flow. There's plenty of work to do around the planet.
Yeah, and who knows, maybe you'll be responding to some foreign country in the near future, and you'll meet a bunch of gray shirt wearing individuals with funny accents, and you guys can share a pint on the ground down there. So this was amazing. Honestly, when we started to run into technical difficulties, I thought, hey, we had 1,000, 1,200 people signed up for the original Blue Jeans. Maybe we'll get 100 people because of this, last minute snafu. We had over 500 people tune in and abide by the audible that we had to call. And so I want to thank all 550 of you guys that tuned in to learn more about what's happening with Team Rubicon. We went for an hour and 15 minutes. I had a great time. I think that the rest of this crew had a great time. But we're on to incredible things. We've got 10 months left this year. We're in a full sprint right now to improve across all three of those things that I talked about. We're trying to find unique ways to continue to connect with you, whether you're a donor, a supporter, or a volunteer. We want to have this two-way street where you guys can get an inside peek into what we're working on. So we'll continue to try to innovate and pioneer some things like this as we go throughout the year. So please provide us your feedback. That being said, I do want to take a moment. I want to get Bobby, Kirk, and Jeremy out here in front of the camera. This is the behind the scenes team. Listen, Jeremy, when it comes down to improvise and adapt and overcome, when things go wrong at the last minute, these are the three that made it happen. So, and Mike Lee. So a quick round of applause from us to them. And
thank you.
Thanks for listening, and we'll let you know when we do it again. Take care, and
Thank you.
Take care.